Hi, guys. All right. So we're going to talk today, and I'm going to try and not fall off the stage. Okay? And I'm a nerd. That's what that was. Thanks, Osmond, for the introduction. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my nerdiness. Okay? But the only reason I'm going to tell you that is because the rest of this conference is surrounded by amazing, distinguished therapists. And so let's get the nerd perspective on this, right? And so there's a lot of parents here. Who's a parent? Okay, this is good. This is going to be really interesting. I want this to be a discussion, interactive. I got a lot of material to go through, but at the same time, let's talk. Let's talk through it and move through it together. Cool? Okay, everybody, pull out your paper bags. You got it? This is a fascinating thing, right? Now pull out your phones. Insert them into the paper bags. What is going on? Okay, crumple it up like your lunch bag. Right? You got it? Okay, who needs an extra bag to breathe into? Right? Okay, now put it underneath your chair. No, I want it crumpled on the top. I see you cheating. I want it crumpled. It's sealed. I have your attention. Woo! Okay, I want it. That's you're fiddling. I hear it. Okay. What a fascinating thing to disconnect and engage for a moment. Okay? Whoa, it got quiet. Is that interesting? Okay, so I want to tell you who I am. Osmond did a really good job. So I'm a nerd. Okay, I've built some software companies. I've done some startup companies. I've ran some advertising agencies. I've sold a couple of those companies, and it's kind of fun, right? Nerd, right? Right now, I took, like Osmond mentioned, I was breakneck pace. The world of technology moves so fast, right? Who got a new phone in the last month? Anyone? Okay, good job. Who got a new phone in the last year? Oh, okay. Sorry, my time block wasn't off. It was off, right? Wait. Raise your hands again if you got a new piece of hardware phone in the last year. Look around. Wow. Okay. Title of the presentation, Pervasive Access. So let's talk about that. So I started a company I took some time off. Actually, let me back up there. So I took some time off because I was moving too fast. I started to lose my family. My marriage was rough. And the hours that I was working to build things for screens was sucking away my personal relationships. Now, I haven't struggled with pornography, but I've had employees who have. And now I have this wonderful opportunity to consult with therapists in my new entity. My new entity is called Human Degree, and that's the only plug. I just wanted to show you that, but I'm a digital strategist. Sometimes I call myself a corporate digital strategist, but right now, it feels like I'm a family digital strategist as well. And that's kind of how I'm talking to you today. Okay? So this has been my avatar for a long time, right? This is my egocentric presentation, right? This is my avatar. And I was looking at it this year and I realized, dang, that's 10 years old. I got old. I got way old. Okay? So then I updated it. And my colleagues were making fun of my pose. Right? Okay, I get it. So and I got a little more fuzzy, right? I tamed it back. But now we're living in this age. Who has a Bitmoji? Okay. Isn't that crazy? A little piece of software that recreated me. That's pretty good, huh? I was pretty happy. I was like, hey, that little cartoon guy looks great. You can pose him, animate him, all sorts of different things, and now he represents me. Now, that concept of being represented, we're going to get a little bit more into, but as a fundamental part of computer science, it's an abstraction. An abstraction from what? Reality. From me. Okay? So I looked back and I was representing myself online in all my avatars as my younger self. Less wrinkles, more hair. Right? Actually, I think I cropped it because I was losing it, whatever. Okay. But now I'm able to abstract myself into this fun character, and where does that go? Where does that go? This is fascinating. So we talked about the phones that you have, right? This is the most important graph I'm going to show you. This is a huge piece of data. Okay? The global population of the world. Where are we about? How many people? Encroaching on 7 billion, right? My first bar there is 2005. Second bar is about 2015, right? These are 10-year increments. And the third bar is where we can be going. And I want to talk to you about where this is going and the projections. So we're just under 7 billion right now, okay? And we know that computers came about in the mid-90s, right? The personal computer and the internet, the World Wide Web, right around, like 1996 was the official launch of the Tim Berners-Lee World Wide Web, WWW, right? And PCs started getting into our culture. And then we got mobile. And who had a flip phone? Cool. I was in college, my first semester of college, and I had a group of fellas that I was running around with. And I was one of 35 guys that had a cell phone in college. So this is a very transitional time. It was a transitional time. Isn't that weird? Right now, can you imagine a college freshman without a cell phone? No. That would be death, right? Okay. Has anyone felt the need to reach under the bag, get the bag, are we okay? I want to take a picture. Okay. You got busted, right?
I didn't. I wanted.
Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, so this is fascinating. So we have this smartphone revolution in 2007. Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone. We're going to talk about that, but let's talk about where the next 10 years are going. Okay? Let's project into 2025 and see what happens. We know that the world population is going to escalate, right? We know it. This is the projected. We're about 8.3 billion in 2025. Okay? That's a lot of people on this planet, right? Okay? Now, PCs, personal computers, they've plateaued, and now the projection is that they're gonna be around. They're still our little workhorses. Everyone goes in and does something there, right? But all of a sudden, mobile's taking over. The projected rise of smartphones in the population as we merge, there's not going to be a dumb phone anymore. No more flip phones, right? Antiques. But you look at that potential saturation, and it's 85% of the world will be connected mobily. Okay? These are following trends, looking at projections, and this is an amazing data. Okay? What we're going to talk about again today is the balance of what happens when we have such a saturation in our access. Okay? So this tool, this screen, is it a tool or is it a toy? The screen concept was revolutionary. Don't underestimate the fact that this simple device can transmogrify, to use a Calvin and Hobbes word, into anything we want. How many devices has it replaced? At least 10. Let's name them off. It's replaced my GPS unit, camera, calculator, watch, yeah, a dictionary, the book, right? Okay. Notes. Your notebook, your gaming console. All these things have now become available at our fingertips. And it's a big deal to remove the physical keys because really this object becomes anything we want. So let's talk about what it means to be a tool or a toy in this space. Steve Jobs, early on, said, computers should be bicycles for the mind. Bicycles for the mind. What does that mean? He often also referenced the intersection of technology and the humanities. Okay? And we're going to see this balance play out in a fascinating way. So, bicycle for the mind. What does that mean? Did you know that a human being on a bike is the most efficient machine there is? Biologically. Fascinating, right? If you're on a bike, who's ever been on a road bike and felt like they were flying? So cool, right? This is the opportunity that we have for these mini computers in our pockets, okay? Allowing a ton of things for us. These are the implications of intent here. Creativity, a force multiplier. You're smarter. You're faster. Life is easier. Okay? Now, as a toy, what has happened? The attention economy has arisen. And this is a fascinating concept. Anything that uses you, your time, your vote, your scrolls, your searches, your browsing, if you're not paying for that, guess what? You are the product. They're selling you. What are they? They're selling your attention, your eyeballs to advertisers. They're selling your profile to marketers and product designers. They know so much about you. Did you know that if you don't have a Facebook account, you still have a Facebook account? It's true. It's called the shadow profile. Now, anybody who knows you, who simply logs onto Facebook and says, yeah, I can have access, you can have access to my contacts. Let's see who's there, right? Well, Facebook uses that address and builds a whole world about you. So here's the thing. If anyone has your contact info and they've synced with a social service, that service has a shadow profile of you already. You didn't even have a choice to opt out because they are gathering this data. So that's a lot. And then by way of your contacts, they can know how old you are, what's your gender, what where you like because of these third-degree connections. Fascinating, huh? They're using that to advertise. They're using that to customize. And what they are really wanting is your attention. So the attention economy has arisen. We scroll, we click, we browse, we consume. Okay? What we're talking about here really is distilling this down from tool or toy into something that we all know. Culturally, are we obeying the law of the harvest? Okay? And using our tools? Or are we culturally on demand? And the implications of this are crazy, right? Really interesting. So let's balance the two. On-demand economy, on-demand attention economy versus the law of the harvest. This really becomes a showdown for our future. This is a fight. And this is the fight that you have to be incredibly aware of. This concept of how much screen time we're taking. There's a phrase that's been floating out there. It's time well spent. Let me tell you a story about a man named Tristan Harris. He's a product manager. He was managing the development of the new product called Google Inbox. It's a different version of Gmail. And they recognize, he's sitting there and he says, I've never realized that a group of generally white men aged 20s to 30s are designing experiences that will affect billions. Now, a notification. When these guys designed a bing, right? A hook. What he realized is that he was manipulating billions of people. His ethics, his intention was seeping out into the world in large measure. Okay, so that's a big deal. And he quit. He quit, and, a handful of people at a handful of companies steer what 1 billion people are thinking today. So he was they called him the design ethicist, but now he started a nonprofit called, the Center for Humane Technology. But it actually, there's a little quirk in here. He started his nonprofit, and it was called Time Well Spent. He recognized that how much time was being taken away from us because of our devices. And interestingly enough, somebody else got involved. Who's that? Arguably, one of the most powerful people on the planet. Mark Zuckerberg, the inventor of Facebook. Okay? There's an incredible backlash that went on Facebook. And it had a lot to do about this concept of influence. As a marketer, I loved the ability to advertise on Facebook. Why? Because I could spend $1,000 on other marketing, or I could spend $50 and talk to the right people on Facebook. Okay? And I was able to profile them, where they lived, what they liked, their gender, all these different things, and I could spend just a tiny little bit of money and have an amazing return on investment. I could make people buy products. I can make people join groups. I can do all these things very, very effectively. And right now, we're reeling, and there's a little bit of things going on. Who has mixed feelings about the President of the United States? It's okay. But what we're finding is that businessman, Donald Trump, spent really good money activating certain demographics, especially on Facebook. And he got out the vote. Fascinating, right? Who else got out the vote on Facebook? Who else? The Russians. We've revealed and confirmed that there was a number of different Facebook groups that were promoting content to steer the election. And they were activating people too. So, Mark Zuckerberg toured the nation like a politician last year and has declared his intent to make Facebook time well spent. So what you see is somebody who took over, like very typically, he took over this phrase, and now you're going to see Facebook saying, Facebook is time well spent. Besides the ethics here. So this is fascinating. So what are we talking about? We're talking about our autonomy. Fundamentally, who is controlling our thoughts? Okay? It's very core. It's very important to our internal self. What are we giving away? Who are we empowering externally to, very much like Pavlov's dogs, thank you, to cue us, to make us think, to make us react. Okay? This is fascinating. Now, the next sphere of this is our interpersonal communication. Has dating changed? Dating is a scary thing in general, right? When I was growing up, dating was scary, but now, wow. Who's on Snapchat in here? Okay. Who knows what a Snapchat streak is? Okay. There's some rueful faces, right? So here's a platform that almost all sub-18-year-olds are on, communicating. They will, on average, we check our phone 150 times a day. Okay? For the teenagers, it's way different. It's even more. Okay? But our interpersonal communication has dramatically changed. Our face-to-face communication, eyeball to eyeball, countenance to countenance, time has changed because we've displaced and moved it and abstracted it online. Okay? So the interpersonal thing has changed because of these mobile devices. And society at large. I would put out to you, and I don't want to be too much of a conspiracy theorist here, but if we are not careful on a personal level, on an interpersonal level, our democracy and very much our government is in jeopardy right now because of the unintended consequences of mobile devices. So, that's a little chilling, isn't it? So, what we really need to do is find the balance. And I'd like to present a small model and talk to you about what you can do to find the balance. Now, there's a lot of studies out there that talk about screen time. And a lot of people want to make a lot of decisions and suggestions around screen time. I would purport that technology is neutral. We know that most technology, especially in entertainment, has been promoted and advanced by the porn industry. Do you like high definition television? Yeah. I do too. Thank you, porn industry. Do you like streaming video online? Thank you, porn industry. Do you like e-commerce? Who shops online? Thank you, porn industry innovations. Fascinating, right? Okay, so let's find the balance. One of the things I want to talk about is I've got a 3D model. The first one is distractions. What are we doing around these distractions in our lives? Do we have safe spaces or off times? Are we at dinner with our cell phones? Are we in bed with our spouses on our cell phones? And what is this doing to our connections? So this year, I have said that focus is my currency. And this is the opposite of distraction. But these interruptions are crazy. One of the things that I find that as I've been working with all these therapists is that you're going to see the concept of mindfulness come up again and again. Okay? And paradoxically, your phone, and there's a lot of apps out there that are about mindfulness, can remind you to be mindful. Okay? If we can be mature and hold this paradox in our heart and understand that this access can also make us grow, we just got to find the balance. We have to be diligent about what we allow on our phone. Who has ever turned off? We all like silent mode, right? Click. We like silent mode. But who's ever turned off their notifications? Good job. Maybe I'm preaching to the choir here, right? Who's ever taken the step to move their phone to grayscale? You've done it? It's fascinating, right? You go into some of the special features of the system, just turn the colors off, and you see what happens in your brain and how you interact with your phone. It changes things. There's a great opportunity that's built into every operating system. Okay? Distraction. One of the key things that drives addiction, this toy, is the concept of novelty. There's a lot of talk and a lot of research around this. But anytime we're looking for novelty, it's fascinating. This is variable reward. Have you ever thought of your Google search as gambling? Have you ever seen on the Google page, I'm feeling lucky, that little link? Instead of showing you a result, it just takes you there. Okay? Just know that as you search, even your searches, imagine yourself going up to the slot machine and pulling. Because that process of searching is addictive. It releases dopamine when you find the thing you're looking for. Okay? So know just how deep, we talk about Googling things, but just understand what that's doing and the implications and the authority that we're giving it in our lives. One of the things we've been talking about with little kids is that little kids are now having a hard time of understanding where authority comes from because we say, hey Siri, right? Or, okay Google. Yeah, right? So we got to be careful. Now, the opposite of consumption, consuming things, is creativity. We could cultivate things, and we can build things with these tools. Taking pictures is a beautiful thing. It really is. You're not as busted as I set you up to be. The next thing we got to think about is how this makes us disembodied. Okay, you remember that screen where I showed you my 10-year-old picture, my current picture, and my Bitmoji? That disembodiment means something to our souls. And it's fascinating because it really is an alternate reality. So we have to be careful, find the balance of how much we're checking out. I just need to unplug, right? The other thing is it's funny. I employed a lot of computer programmers, and there was two types of the typical frumpy, slumpy computer programmer, right? But then there was the other one who recognized that they had to counteract all their screen time, and they were like, half of the computer programmers I know are like these CrossFit, amazing physical people because they've found the balance. Okay? So the other thing about disembodiment, and this is a huge thing, and you're going to hear this from religious leaders, you're going to hear this from psychologists, the concept of projecting ourselves in perfection. Do we only stream the good things to Instagram?
Yeah.
Right? It's setting ourselves up for failure. Studies show that the more Facebook you use, the more depressed you are. Now, it's so nuanced now that I don't think studies can catch up. Because who's heard of Musical.ly? It's an app, right? It's a community. Who's on Kick? Who's on Twitter? Who's on, right? Snapchat, Instagram. All these different platforms for us to connect, but we're giving a ton of opportunity to project a false sense of reality. So the balance is, are you true? Are you honest? Are you sharing your vulnerability? The next is really the cure-all. The core concept of connection. It's often said that the opposite of addiction is connection. So, but this concept of being disconnected, it happens not only when we're disembodied, but online we have this tendency to be trolls, nasty people with big opinions, right? We draw lines and we say, this is us. We say, this is them. And we never want to talk to you, and we want to exclude you. And we're drawing all sorts of lines. The opposite of that. Are we searching for the empathy of the other perspective? Can we build a culture, a society, a way of communicating that allows people to exist? You have your space, I have mine, we live together. There's an underpinning of love there that is a fascinating, in-depth thing. So, the binges, we got to be careful. The disconnection. You know, the concept, Netflix. Netflix is an amazing thing, but they also know, and they don't like to release this data, but you will, on average, watch 3 episodes. Does that fit anyone else's profile here? Who's a 2-episoder? I'm a 2.5 because I get guilty. Okay? But we got to be careful because that disconnection, even while we're in a family setting, can distance us from our partners and our families. So setting the right priorities and schedules are really important. Technology is going to play a huge role in this. But the first thing I would recommend is that you get involved as deeply as you can, as deep as the people you love. If they have a profile, you have a profile. Okay? You're always going to be connected. And then you get to experience the streaming reality of their digital life. And it's really important. You're never going to be able to filter or limit this device. There will always be a workaround. There isn't a dream solution right now. But you can set your priorities. You can talk about what is okay and what's not okay. And you can really find the balance. As a gateway to addiction, and if we follow the model here, I think, I'm all way off. I think we can affect ourselves, our close relationships, and I think we can change the world. And I think we can present, especially from a UCAT perspective, a healthy culture, a healthy perspective on sexuality, a healthy perspective on mental health, finding the balance through all these things. And it's going to be okay. So instead of a conspiracy theorist, I'm going to say, guys, it's okay. Now, if anyone has had a phantom ring, have you ever felt the buzzing before? You felt the buzzing? You know it's time to turn off your notifications for a couple weeks. Other things. Don't charge your cell phone in your bedroom. Have a family charging station. And when you're at home, be home. If you have a problem, if you're seeing this concept of creeping into your time, of pervasive access, the need to be always connected, talk to a professional. There's an opportunity for health, and there's a lot of help out there. So I wanted to open it up to any kind of questions. I do have a lot of nerd background, but the concept here is be aware that technology is a big differentiator. Everyone pull out your bags. Did you make it? Yeah. Did you learn something? Thank you so much for your time. Thanks, husband. See how noisy it got? Yo, what's up?
So the graphs you showed, I think, on one of your first slides.
Yeah.
And how you projected into 2025.
Yeah.
The population and the number of smartphones. So I'm assuming that that was partly based off the current slope of the graph. What other projections or have you looked at? Because I noticed that it didn't follow the current slope. It kind of exponentially.
Correct. Correct. What we're seeing is a leapfrog in technology. So the build out of access is fascinating because what we're calling the last mile effect is that there's cultures in different regions and different places in the world that are skipping wired. And so that's why you're seeing the jump. So they've never had data before, and now they go wireless. And they go into the pocket, and suddenly they've leapfrogged all the copper lines, all the optical lines, all the physical build out. And that really is the reason for that jump.
Do you have a philosophy you've developed relative to ages around smartphones and addictive and the balance of being overprotective and protecting?
Yes, I do. So the question was, do we have a philosophy around kids? Now, there's an interesting thing that came out from the American Association of Pediatrics around screen time. And then Oxford came out and bashed it up with a counter study. And it was interesting because I wanted to present screen time stats to you, and I wanted to make a strong recommendation for age groups. But really interestingly enough, it is very personal. So my kids go to a Waldorf school. It's kind of like a Montessori school. I'm following their suggestion that no screen time whatsoever under age 12. They're getting enough side exposure. There's another stat that's fascinating. It's 98% of children under 8 in America have significant access to a mobile device. So I follow the Montessori suggestions of no screen time. I mean, as a technologist, I had 4 extra iPads lying around the house, different generations, and I was planning on giving them to my children just in succession, right? What I found is that my kids are able to walk into an empty room and have fun now that they aren't so screen oriented. So I would say, any kids under 5, no screen time. There are studies that show that there's developmental issues associated with that. Kids from 6 to 12, very limited. And I would never give one of those kids a mobile device. Oh.
I'm just wondering, have they done any studies on virtual reality? I know it's just starting, but...
Most of the studies around addiction right now, it's interesting. In the early 90s, a lot of people were worried about video games. Okay? So there's a lot of studies about video games and violence. Do video games create violence? And so a lot of the studies talked about video game addiction and video game violence. And that has stemmed, but all of a sudden the world opened up, right? All those video games got hooked to the internet. And have you ever seen a gamer plugged into a virtual world and talking at the same time with a headset on? It's fascinating, right? So the studies haven't caught up right now. And I've read a ton of these studies, but it's just a function of, is it consuming for you, and is it healthy? There are studies that say gaming is really good for boys. There's studies that say that, I read one study that says gaming is actually a really good outlet for boys if it's structured, if they're not doing more than an hour a day. But it actually can be increased violent behavior in girls. So there's gender issues, there's platform issues, there's connectivity issues, and it's really something that we have to wade within our personal sphere. Did I even come close to answering your question? No? Okay, go ahead.
Going back to what you were saying about screen time, so you have kids who are so surrounded by it, like you said, they must see some sort of like inequality between them and their friends, and they think that like a parent is being a tyrant for,
Right.
screens away from them when all their friends can have it. How do you help them to understand, the benefit that it's having?
One of the things that I've planned on, you guys know what a crowdfunding is? One of the things that crowdfund is like new products that you can put money towards, and it's not as commercial. But one of the things that I've crowdfunded is Simple Phone, and it's a black and white phone that does messaging, phone, and address book. and I've invested in them, and I'm hoping to get a couple simple phones for the future of my kids, because I don't really want them to have, I want to be able to call them, I want to be able to find them, I want them to call them if they're not feeling safe, but I want to be able to control that. And so kids at Stanford just even recently protested in front of the Apple store on campus saying there isn't enough appropriate lockdown for even the iPhone, iOS ecosystem for a family to be healthy. It's very true. Now, Android is kind of there, but it's not as clean and it doesn't work as good. And there's so many things to balance when it comes to tech that I don't know if we're going to see family management capabilities coming out of Apple, Google, or anything like that. They're so user-centric. And why are they user-centric? They're selling. You're the product. So I use all these things. There's, I have a threshold of okayness, but we got to be careful. Yo.
Is there a direction you can point us to, manage that screen time for families, even my wife, and without being a tyrant husband? It's become a problem even with my wife. In fact, this whole thing, I came here because of my son, and now I'm going, well, maybe it's my wife that's going to be the issue more than my son.
If you take away your wife's Instagram addiction, it's going to be harsh.
Exactly.
Well, okay, yeah. You got to be careful.
One last question from that individual, but we are breaking for lunch. I don't want to be too rude to you guys. I'm sorry because we have a tight time, so I apologize. Chris has also lunch time, and then he will present it again. You can go his session again if you want to, but we will have last one, and then we're gonna go break for lunch.
Mine kind of goes along with his.
Okay.
Just that, I'm trying to cut down in electronic use in my family, and we've noticed a positive influence with our kids, even just a little bit that we've been cutting down. But my husband says that he needs to relax by using, he puts on little headphones.
Yeah.
Watches on screen.
The need to check out.
And some part of me is like, how much can we effectively limit when, I'd love to limit more, but.
One of the things that I found is interesting, like I do a weekly digital fast. I don't carry a phone on Sundays, which is interesting. I try, I turn off all notifications if I have to look up certain things. But really it is a family communication issue of saying, what are the schedule and priorities? Are we going to use an internet filter? Are we going to use, are we cultivating enough self-awareness of why we're doing these things? Are we hurting? Are we feeling trapped? All those things can push us towards addiction. And oftentimes we just got to look deeper and communicate through them. So good luck, because the easiest person to pick apart is your spouse. Right? Okay.
Thank you so much, guys. Can you give me one more applause over the stage? It's Chris and